Hey guys, Matt Walksler here, Wheels Through Time Museum. We got the new bike out today. We're doing staff rides this week here at the museum. We're gonna be highlighting some really cool machines. So today on the plate, my new bike, 1938 Harley Davidson ULH. So 80 cubic inch, big twin flathead, 4-speed transmission. Now the UL started in 1937. We've actually got a few really great early examples, even a couple prototypes of this big twin flathead motor here at Wheels Through Time. This bike built entirely out of parts. So started collecting stuff several years ago for a big twin flathead build. Actually found a good set of 1938 U model cases and started from there. So this machine, ton of fun to ride. It's been out a couple times so far, literally just finished it the other day. So it's probably got less than 30 minutes run time. We're breaking it in, we're dialing in. I'm gonna go over some of the features with you. Now, started with a genuine pair of 1938 ULH engine cases and a genuine 38 knucklehead big twin flathead frame. So really the heart of the machine, the core of the machine, and the base of the chassis. So when I built this bike, you know, here at the museum, we build them to ride them. One of my favorite things to do is take these machines off-road. Again, they're just kind of big dirt bikes. These machines really designed as much for dirt roads and gravel roads as much as pavement. So this machine, 80 cubic inch, big twin flathead. It's actually been stroked out to be a little bit more than 80 cubic inches. Want to run over some of the engine modifications that we did. First thing, set of big cams. My friend Nick in New Jersey specially ground me a set of cams for a big hot rod motor. And what we did was we ended up modifying the entire top end. So we're running big valves, ported top end, big 4-bolt manifold. So what common conversion on a lot of the race motors, even the smaller engines, the WR racing engines, had a 4-bolt manifold here. The 4-bolt is a little bit larger carburetor, same carburetor that they run on a panhead, on a later model FL 74 cubic inch knucklehead. Now traditionally the flatheads had that small carburetor. You got to remember, medium compression. Although they're 80 cubic inches, they're not flowing quite the same as those big twin knuckleheads and panheads. So what we did, being that it has the larger cam and the extra stroke, we modified the intake nipples to run the larger FL size or WR size intake manifold. So big old knucklehead carburetor. It's actually an M75 carburetor. The M75 was an aftermarket, excuse me, an accessory knucklehead carburetor for your hot rod machines. So really cool setup. Now the motor is one of the freest and quietest flatheads I've ever ridden. One of the neat things about this machine is a special pair of heads. The heads are actually from a company called Flathead Power in Sweden that remanufacture heads for the 80 cubic inch and 74 cubic inch big twin flatties. Now the neat thing about these heads is inside they're actually machined with a KR combustion chamber. The KR was Harley Davidson's racing machine from 1952 to 1969. Really come a long way as far as flatheads go. So flathead for Harley Davidson, the first twin cylinder flathead was 1929. 45 cubic inch job. In 1930, they came out with the VL, that's the 74. Primitive setup, and over that time, they really figured out how to pull power out of these really simple engines. So by the mid-KR years, they've got an entirely new combustion chamber that helps airflow, directs combustion at the center of the piston, really increases horsepower, and changes the motor all around. So first time I've ever used a pair of these heads, and again, I don't have a ton of miles on this bike, but seems like the result A1 right off the bat. Now going over some of the chassis stuff, as you can see, this bike has an absolute ton of ground clearance down here. We built the machine with 19-inch wheels. 18-inch wheels were standard on these bikes. So give it an extra inch or so of ground clearance. And then one of the really neat parts about this bike, very rare Vard front end. Now the Vard front end was a telescopic front end before Harley Davidson debuted the Hydroglide. Hydraulic front end for Harley Davidson started in 1949. on the panhead models. So the Vard company was out of Pasadena, and they were actually some aviation guys that after World War II started developing a hydraulic front end for Harley Davidson and Indians. So really stoked to be running one of these. We've got a few of these in the museum. They're ultra rare, incredibly hard to find, and this one took quite a bit of work to get mounted up. So this one, what we did was we actually had to make an entire headlight bracket. So all of this has been recently fabbed back here. I did my very best to keep it, period. You see, I'm used to assembling manufactured motorcycles, and I'm not quite a custom guy, so it was really kind of a challenge to do the headlight bracket. Wanted to use as much original components as I could, so you're talking original Harley Davidson Cycle Race Springer headlight, original ultra rare 9-bolt horn. The 9-bolt horn, one of the most sought after Harley Davidson parts for Springer front ends nowadays. Early front brake assembly. Or, you know, the risers are really kind of a cool setup. Wanted high bars. Remember, I kind of built this thing as a dirt bike, so high, big, flat bars up here. And what we've done is a double riser assembly that allows me quite a bit of adjustment on exactly where I wanted these bars. So right now I've got them set up in a pretty comfy position, but what this does is allows me to take two different pivots and allow those handlebars to come further and closer or further away from me, depending on the use. So early front brake, I've got high low beam switch, almost all original components. So really, really neat stuff here. Now on this side, we've got traditional Harley Davidson driveline, primary chain, secondary chain. This has got the early style narrow clutch. Narrow clutch is nice because it's in a little bit tighter, gives you even more room on your left-hand turns. A lot of the times you see these primary covers and they're dinged up and dented underneath from scraping on the ground. Floorboards, same thing. A lot of the times you see the back areas of the floorboard extensions or the floorboards scraped off. This one's set up with the tall Vard front end, the double tall wheels, the skinny primary. It's going to be great for cornering. I'm really excited to put some miles on this thing. So machine is, for the most part, finished up. Now, we always put it, when you build a motorcycle, it takes hundreds of hours to assemble a machine from scratch and put it on the road. The way I always put it is, once you finish the bike and fire it up for the first time, you still got 20% of the work left. So this bike's going to take some time to dial in. We're going to be adjusting things like clutch, things like brakes, shifter linkage, carburetor richness. So all that's going to change and evolve over the next couple, maybe 15 or 20 hours. And I'm really looking forward to putting some miles on this thing. So you get to the rear end of the bike, some of the really neat features. Sparto taillight, common hot rod bobber taillight, aftermarket setup, probably 1950s. And then the exhaust, I've only seen one other exhaust like this. It's got a great rasp to it. The exhaust inside the museum of the very same type. It's on the Big Fish knucklehead. Some of you guys might remember that's from some of our earlier programming. Big Fish, as far as I know, it's something about the fastest period knucklehead out there. It's the swing arm knuckle, has the exact same exhaust and lets out quite a bark. So, and then one of my favorite pieces on this bike, I actually got this out of Ohio, is an original paint Harley Davidson square toolbox. These things are rectangular toolbox, excuse me. These are so incredibly rare today. I cannot explain how excited I was when I found this. It's still got the original dealer decal. Just one of those moto nerd things that us guys really flip out about. It's some of the smallest things you'd never expect. So transmission, standard 4-speed Harley Davidson transmission on the outside. On the inside, I've kind of set it up with close ratio gears. So you got a taller first gear, third gear's a little bit closer to second, so you can really wind this thing out. Make some absolute great noise. We're going to fire it up for you here right now. You can hear it breathe. Oh, come on now. Now the exhaust makes all sorts of noise. The motor itself though, little gear noise, virtually no piston noise. I actually used a really cool special set of pistons with the wrist pin offset to the back. I was doing some research. It's a pretty standard automotive application. Quiets the motor down entirely. Like I said, one of the quietest flathead Harleys I've ever built. Really excited to put some miles on it. I'm gonna take it for a ride, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Drive for History. We'll see you later this week. More staff rides. Make sure you're tuning in.